For the last 300 years, Western civilization has been on an extended Rumspringa. The Enlightenment gave us incredible scientific and medical breakthroughs, but it also ran a massive social experiment. It cut the traditional bonds of community and elevated the isolated, independent self above all else. When you strip away the social ecosystem, humans inevitably begin to treat the society they live in as a marketplace. Neighbors stop being people you rely on and start becoming competitors for resources, or just another demographic to be exploited for personal advantage. But this creates a severe psychological trap. Clinical psychologists have observed a harsh reality over the last couple of decades. There is virtually no technical difference between obsessing over your immediate proximal desires and being utterly miserable. This detachment scales up into a structural crisis. When a massive state protects our individual rights while shielding us from the local consequences of our actions, the natural social brakes on our behavior simply vanish. Without the direct feedback of a community to restrain us, our pursuit of personal advantage turns into a collective psychosis, one that strip-mines the physical environment because the individual no longer feels any stake in its long-term survival. We have treated the human individual like a seed left completely isolated on a sterile marble countertop. It can't do anything. A seed only fulfills its biological purpose when it is buried in the soil, surrendering its isolation to interact with a much larger ecosystem. True human identity cannot be found in isolated self-interest. It demands a shift in how we orient ourselves, requiring us to put down real roots into the messy reality of the world around us. A functional, resilient identity is actually built out of two specific components: the proper hierarchical union of faith and responsibility. Faith, in this context, isn't blind belief. It is the courage to look into the chaotic possibilities of an unknown future and cast a hopeful vision, acting out the proposition that existence is intrinsically good. Responsibility is the physical, sacrificial action you take right now to make that hopeful vision a reality. You can think of this structure like Jacob's ladder. It is a subsidiary architecture where you build your identity by linking the earthly, finite tasks at the very bottom to a divine, transcendent vision at the top. Constructing this ladder starts at the absolute micro level. Think of a toddler learning to clean their room. They don't grasp the grand concept of order, but they master the micro-routine of placing a single toy on a specific spot on a shelf. Mastering those tiny micro-routines establishes a baseline that scales outward. You learn to share a meal, maintaining a marriage, raising your children, and providing real hospitality to the neighborhood. Your identity is not a static internal trait that you suddenly discover. It is a subsidiary architecture you must actively construct, step by step, from the bottom up. As that responsibility scales outward, a massive shift occurs. The individual stops operating as a detached consumer and starts weaving robust networks of mutual aid and local trust. These self-sustaining communities stand in stark contrast to the modern administrative state. The state thrives on managing atomized individuals, demanding that people rely entirely on central bureaucracies rather than each other. History shows us exactly what happens when local networks are deliberately erased. Look at the rapid rise of totalizing states in the early 20th century. When a society lacks resilient local structures, the state easily steps into the vacuum to control every aspect of human life. This map shows the structural division during the Cold War. The Iron Curtain separates Eastern and Western Europe. The West didn't survive this totalitarian push through abstract free market theories. It held out because of the messy, overlapping network of civic organizations, the clubs, charities, and local groups holding the society together beneath the surface. Humans desperately need this community rebar. Because our perception is limited, we need churches, neighborhood leagues, and local councils to act as a mirror, validating our reality and protecting us from the psychosis of absolute isolation. Adopting this local responsibility provides the essential structural defense for both a sane mind and a free society. It anchors the individual in a shared reality while providing the collective strength necessary to withstand the weight of a totalizing state. When you embed yourself within that local ecosystem, your role changes entirely. You evolve from a detached consumer into what is known as a rentmeester, a steward. True stewardship requires a constant, active sacrifice. You continually subordinate your short-term, selfish impulses to ensure the long-term survival and harmony of the community around you. The psychological payoff for this sacrifice is immense. Mental health is not a subjective internal feeling. It is the natural byproduct of this multidimensional social harmony operating exactly as it should. We often view responsibility as an oppressive weight, but voluntarily carrying a heavy load uphill is the exact location where human dignity and the actual meaning of life emerge. We are not biological parasites meant to be quarantined away from nature. We are transcendent moral agents, built to struggle, cultivate, and bring order to the world. By anchoring ourselves deeply in the soil of our communities and actively bearing the weight of our responsibilities, we stop tearing the world apart. Instead, we hoist it on our shoulders and tilt it toward heaven.